This is the Ted Wallison Podcast. Brought to you by Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And now, here's Ted Wallison.
Back on September 28th, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency blocked the import of, quote, commercial dogs, or rescue dogs, as you might know them, from entering this country from over 100 countries. Jeffrey Beri and his team from No Dogs Left Behind are working diligently to correct this situation. Jeffrey Beri is the founder of No Dogs Left Behind Me, and he joins me on my podcast. Jeffrey, thanks very much for taking the time. I appreciate this.
Thank you, Ted. It's a pleasure being here.
Let's talk about your latest mission. You had 47 dogs that you were about to save from slaughterhouses in East Asia and then transport them to your safe house in Scarborough. How did that go?
First let me say that No Dogs Left Behind fights the fight on the front lines in the harshest regions of the world. And what you're specifically talking about, and our macro vision is to enforce global animal welfare laws. We believe that no country has the right to operate without animal welfare laws. It's incredible that in the 21st century, countries don't have any animal welfare laws. And particularly, we're fighting on the front lines in East Asia, trying to end what's called the dog meat trade, which is virtually an illegal trade. So we have teamed up with brave activists and volunteers. We have positions in different countries in East Asia, meaning we have shelters and sanctuaries. And what we do is we attack slaughterhouses, we attack dog trafficking trucks or slaughter trucks. We do it the correct way. And when I mean the correct way is that we actually confiscate the dogs from the slaughter trucks and from the slaughterhouses, because the majority of the time, 99% of the time, they have no legal documentation of where the dogs come from, no legal documentation that the dogs meet the health and quarantine standards to even slaughter, and 99% of the time, the conditions at these slaughterhouses are horrendous, which is what breeds pandemics. So we've successfully in the years have saved north of 10,000 dogs that would have been slaughtered for consumption. Wow. The 50 dogs, actually, there's 50 dogs that have come in from East Asia. These dogs were dogs that we have rescued from slaughter trucks and from slaughterhouses, seconds away from being slaughtered. And they are golden retrievers, Belgian Malinois, poodles, mixed breeds, assortment of dogs. And we just made it in on time, a few days prior to the Canadian borders being closed to countries that are endemic to rabies.
So the reason that in fact, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency moved to ban the import of these dogs from over 100 countries is primarily due to the concern of rabies. And yet the concept of vaccination is not something new. And it's being done everywhere else in the world. We're the only country in the Western world that has implemented this policy.
So,
why?
Ted, it's a great point. And I have a hard time understanding why the Canadian government hasn't sat down with rescues like No Dogs Left Behind. Let me just take a second and step back for a second. In America, they actually did a ban from 113 countries, but we petitioned and we fought back because it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There are ways to do this that is right. For example, if the dogs receive titer tests from laboratories that are approved by the Canadian government or by the CDC, the American government, that dog can have proof, a passport that says they legally, and they have the antibody that protects them from rabies. So there's
Mm.
ways to do it where it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There has and the Americans overturned the ban by implementing this process and protocol where the dog goes, gets blood drawn, they get a rabies titer test. If the titer shows they have the antibodies, then within 30 days they're allowed to come into America. They land in America. They go to a quarantine facility, which is at the airport. They inspect the dog. They check the microchip that correlates to the dog's antibodies, and then they are given another vaccination at that location, and life is good. But to shut the doors on rescues and to shut the doors on the voiceless is just not right. It's just not right. It's just essentially it's turning your back on lives, and many rescues are going to have to fold because they can't get the dogs out. So
Yeah.
not only the rescues are going to close, but the dogs will suffer. More lives will be lost, and it's unnecessary.
Let me go back a little bit here, Jeffrey, and ask you how No Dogs Left Behind came to be. You're an American-based organization. You're the founder, correct?
That's correct. I am the founder of No Dogs Left Behind.
And this comes from what, a passion for animals?
It comes from a passion for animals. I was a fashion jewelry designer and mechanical engineer for empty years, making north of $7 billion worth of jewelry. And I woke up one morning, and I actually, to be honest with you, what really was the turning point for me was I watched a documentary called The Cowspiracy, and I recommend everybody watch this documentary. It is absolutely incredible, and it's a plethora of knowledge as to what really is going on with the planet and how devastating animal agriculture is to the planet. That was a day where I realized that something needs to change. And weeks went by, and I found myself paralyzed, understanding why why no, but I shouldn't say nobody, but within my circle of peers, nobody wanted to take a step forward and fight for the voiceless. And
Hmm.
I woke up and I said, I'm going to go. And not only I'm going to fight for the voiceless, I'm going to go to the harshest regions of the world. I took my suit and tie and hung it up because I didn't want to be the one to say would have, could have, should have. And I forfeit many lifestyle changes, including not seeing my family as much as I would like to. I flew to the harshest regions of the world, and I have not come back. I have not come back, and I continue to save lives. We've saved lives in East Asia, Afghanistan. I was just recently in Afghanistan, transporting 300 survivors out of the Taliban's den on an Illusion 76. We've just recently lost our campaign in Ukraine, where I met with the general of Ukraine, and we're implementing a multi-tier sterilization program where we're sterilizing the dogs, vaccinating the dogs because it's endemic in Ukraine, and
Hmm.
tagging these dogs and microchipping them so people can see that they are safe. Our intentions are to bring Gostomel, which is where the Russians landed, to an 80% level of vaccination and sterilization. This will level load the population, and this is the best thing we could do for them.
Right. So, and you're getting you're getting cooperation from the government in Ukraine,
That's correct.
who understand what this means. I mean, you've got a country that's being devastated right now. I mean, the trauma that exists on all levels for all different people is incredible, and in many times people turn to animals for comfort.
Correct.
And if these animals are being abused as your country is being destroyed, you're doubling the stress and the pain that's being inflicted upon these people.
Yeah, Ted, if you watch some of the videos, if your followers watch some of the videos, meeting with kids and families, who I was able to sterilize, um, vaccinate them from distemper, canine parvovirus, rabies, sterilize them, microchip them, tag them so that they're safe. I mean, the tears of joy, thanking us, hugs and
Yeah.
kisses. One child brought his dog and he waited for 3 hours for the sterilization, and we brought him home, and in the van on the way back, I asked the interpreter to interpret. And he says, when my mom and dad were out fighting, literally on the front lawn, I was inside, and the only thing that gave me comfort was my dog that was barking, but it was on my lap and didn't move. I mean many stories I heard like that, but it brings tears of joy to me knowing that we're able to, help in the little way we can for such a resilient population, and we're going to continue our efforts there.
And there are a lot of people who have the same kind of feelings that you share here in Canada, and we're against this idea of this ban. What can we do?
I tell you, everyone should be writing letters and calling your local politician that it does not to have to be this way. It does not have to be all or nothing. They need to meet with rescues like No Dogs Left Behind. They need to follow suit of the American government and do it the same way. I don't understand why they
Yeah.
even made this ban. I mean, the Americans just overturned their ban, and then the Canadians closed the doors. I mean, we essentially built this safe house here in Canada because the Americans closed their doors. Now I built a
Right.
safe house here, spending all this money, time, and effort, and now they close the doors here. It's not okay. It's not right. And I think the Canadian. And by the way, let me just say this: I I I am a big advocate of protecting the Canadian people and the American people and all people. That is quintessential, but it does not have to be all or nothing. The format is it should be the same that they do in UK. They don't have rabies in the UK. You can bring your dogs to the UK anytime you want, just as long as you follow the protocol. Get the dog's rabies titer test done, schedule a time, quarantine meets them, checks through, and that's it.
And we live in a country here in Canada, and it embarrasses me to say this, but yet we allow the export of animals such as horses, which are used which are being slaughtered and used as food, and yet we won't protect dogs and cats.
I really can't. I am lost for words why the Canadian government would slam the doors on rescues and slam the dogs on the voices on the dogs. Dogs. They don't. They're the ones that suffer. Really, they're the ones that suffer.
Ted Wallishin returns in a moment.
Have you been tasked with the role of a state executor or expected maybe in the future you will be? Well, if so, let me make your life a lot simpler by introducing you to my friend Debbie Stanley. Debbie is the founder of ETP Canada. They specialize in estate administration. Their goal simply is to help Canadian executors understand their role and how to deal with the loved one's estate. Let's face it, there's no school for this, but ETP Canada offers services such as executor support, estate accounting, and they have a new online course called Executor Ready. It's an engaging video designed to make estate administration easier and affordable. And those are two comforting thoughts during a stressful time. So call Debbie Stanley at 1-866 309 0387. That's 1-866 309 0387. Or you can get her at info at etpcanada.ca. That's info at etpcanada.ca. Well, fall's coming, the kids are back in school, and many of us are easing back into the office at least some of the time. But it is time to get back to work. Time to ditch the sweatpants, t-shirts, and put on some real work clothes. Dress for success. And we've got you covered from business casual to sports jackets to suits. Virtually everything to look your professional best. The Tom's Place Back to Work sale features new fall fashion arrivals like 100% wool suits starting at just $199 each. Sports jackets at 50% off. A crazy selection of sports and dress shirts for $66 each. And lips and dress shirts regularly $145, now only $66. Everything is on sale. Tom's Place is open daily, 11 to 6 weekdays, 10 to 5 Saturday, and 12 to 5 Sunday. Visit Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you.
Now back to Ted Wallishin.
Now that the ban is in effect here in Canada, how is this going to affect the safe house that you have constructed in Scarborough, outside of Toronto, or in Toronto?
And that's a good point. And when one of the arguing points I had with the CDC was Although No Dogs Left Behind will do it right, there'll be many people that will be black marketing in the dogs, saying that they came from this country, or flying the dog to another
Right.
country and getting a passport from another country and bringing it in. We obviously are not going to do that, but again, they're not addressing the fact that there is a right way to do this. However, what we No Dogs Left Behind will do is we'll be assisting local rescues, and we'll be bringing dogs in. Like we've just established a relationship with with a rescue in Spain called SOS Galgos, where the galgos are being exploited. Dogs have dogs have rights and have laws, but the galgos dogs have no rights and no laws because they're used for gaming. It's just incredible. So we're going to be working with other countries where dogs can come direct, and there's going to be times where dogs even go from countries that are banned, but they're going to land in the USA. They're going to land with the proper documentation, and they can go from America. They can come to the sanctuary here in Canada. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. So, for example, Ted, I can literally pack up dogs, 47 dogs, get their titer test, fly them into America. They land in America. They can get an American vaccination, American health certificate, and they can cross the border. So
Wow.
why not? Why not? America is a rabies-free location. The dogs pass the test. They come to America. They receive an American passport. So all these things need to be addressed. You know these, and I just don't understand why they're so why they can't find it in them to sit down with rescues like No Dogs Left Behind and say, how can we make this right?
Well, have they refused to discuss this matter with you at all? I mean, have you met with anybody? I know there's one member of Parliament, Michelle Rumpel Gardner, who has put together a petition, and I think some 12 or 15,000 Canadians have signed it. But I mean, are there any officials in the government that you've spoken to directly in
We
this
have
regard?
tried to penetrate, and we can't seem to find a voice that will listen, or an ear that will listen to our voice. But I'm hoping that people like you, Ted, will help us in our efforts to convince them to overturn their ban, and do it the correct way, where the dogs don't have to suffer. I mean, just think, Ted. You know, I rescued these dogs. These dogs were beaten and tortured,
Yeah.
rehabilitated, right? And to have another country slam the doors, yeah, they have the right to leave. And you know, and by the way, countries like, for example, China, German Shepherd's illegal. Belgian Malinois are illegal. Huskies are illegal. Um, these Bull Terriers are illegal. And there's like another 25 breeds, and they're all over. These dogs are subject to death. They can't even walk the streets. Now, here we are, we go, we save them. We save these dogs, we treat them, we rehabilitate them. Many of them stolen from their homes, seconds away from being slaughtered. Many of them lost limbs, and then we try to bring them here, and now the doors have closed. It just makes no sense.
Why are those particular breeds banned in China?
Do you know that the Chinese dog is banned in its own country? I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, the world needs to change. We need to put global pressure on all countries and all governments that have no animal welfare laws. I mean, this is essential. We're fighting for. This is why we say we're the voice to the voiceless. I mean, you know, why are they allowing breeders to breed a dog that is essentially illegal in that country? How is that possible that it's even allowed? Do you understand? You know,
Yeah.
so the Malamutes are big huskies. It's just forget. I mean, it's just terrible. It's really, the situation is terrible, but we're making headway. I have to say that
Hmm.
we are penetrating a younger demographic. We're teaching them, we're educating them, and we believe change is coming.
And we talk about these dogs being sold to as food, but it's not just that. Some of them enter what are referred to as high kill shelters, where they just don't give them much of an opportunity to be adopted, and others just wander the streets and are left to die, especially in areas such as Ukraine, which is the middle of a
Yeah,
war.
no, it's again, I went to Ukraine. I went to us 15 miles from the Russian border. We were in Kharkiv. We were in areas, literally, we were 15 miles from the nuclear reactors, in areas that were, I mean, there's times where we were running with dogs where bombs were blowing up, and literally the building moving knocked me where I fell to the ground. And
Yeah.
what was incredible, what's incredible is how incredibly resilient they are. And what I realized, and what I said to the government was, and the military, is the best thing I could do for you guys, because evacuating survivors is very complex to get them from Ukraine to Hungary, or Ukraine to Bulgaria or Poland, and then get them out. Is I need to vaccinate and sterilize the dogs to level load the population. And they applauded it. They
Right.
ran campaigns, and they're advocates for us to bring your dogs to No Dogs Left Behind sterilization campaign. And we're proud of the work that we're doing. So, and any one of your listeners are listening, you could watch the videos. You could donate. We need support with donations. We need support with volunteering. We need people to adopt. We need people to foster if you can adopt.
I'm curious as to whether or not any of these corporations that make a living off pets, uh, those people who manufacture dog and cat food and clothing and Lord knows what for animals, are they on your side? Are they supporting you
Not as
financially?
much as I would like to. In fact, we're just going through. And I want to take a second, Ted. I need to talk to you about something. And I'm going to share this to you, and you can essentially act as a whistleblower to this. The Canadian government is addressing rabies, but there are other zoonotic diseases that are not being addressed. And this has to come to a head, like leishmaniasis. And 99.9% of your audience will not know what leishmaniasis is. And you may not even know what it is.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
And then brucellosis is another zoonotic disease that should be addressed. These other zoonotic diseases should be addressed in conjunction with rabies. The three of them should be handled the same way. So leishmaniasis is a sandfly. It's prevalent in countries like Spain. It's prevalent in countries like that are hot and humid weathers. And a sandfly is the vector. So a dog can't give it to a dog. A dog can't give it to a human. But a sandfly can bite a dog and give it to a human. And the migration patterns are changing, Ted. Climate change is changing the migration pattern of these sandflies. So although it's endemic in countries, I believe it's pandemic. And the government needs to address those too. And this is why I think it's so important that they sit down with us to come up with a solution. Like we run leishmaniasis titer, brucellosis titer. We run rabies titer. And by the way, leishmaniasis attacks the kidneys, your vital organs. Brucellosis is a zoonotic disease that, for example, will stop a woman from procreating. So, again, I can't say it enough that it is so important for the government to sit down with rescues like No Dogs Left Behind to understand what's going on around the world, because we are global. Our mission is beyond borders, and we're learning about not just rabies, but also leishmaniasis and also brucellosis. And all these need to be addressed simultaneously.
So what the people of Canada need to do is they need to contact their member of parliament, and they need to go to your website and hopefully read up a little bit more to get a better understanding of what No Dogs Left Behind does, and to make a donation for whatever amount they possibly can.
Thank you, Ted.
And then start writing letters to people like Purina and all the other different corporations that make money off the lives of animals and
what I want
pressure
to,
them.
I just want to circle back, Ted. So what I was saying to you is that I contacted Bayer and I said, in order to have the preventative for leishmaniasis, they have a medication, and still it's been almost a month now where they haven't responded back, and many attempts. So the answer to your question is that it's time for change. We all need to stick together. We all live on this planet together, and change is in order.
Yeah. Well, I applaud you and your colleagues for the magnificent work that you're doing. Give us your website so people can make their way there.
It's nodogsleftbehind.com. Nodogsleftbehind.com. Our social media is No Dogs Left Behind. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can go to our site. You can click on any of the buttons. They'll take you anywhere, and you can read about who we are and what we do, and you can adopt and foster from there as well. Thank you, Ted.
Jeffrey Beri, thank you very much. That's Jeffrey Beri from No Dogs Left Behind.
Thank you, Ted. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
The Ted Wallachon Podcast has been brought to you by Halenda's, the Meat People. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortinos, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. The Ted Wallachon Podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.